to get a fire going. The very first thing you are going to lose during your camping is your favorite tool, often your fancy fire starter. It falls out of your pocket in the morning somehow, and in a place you never think to check again. Often you never find it. But having backup matches is not enough, because when you are learning, you often pick the best soft and sandy spot in the woods. But the reason why it's so soft and sandy is because that's the rain runoff area, or in really bad weather, that's where the flash flood happens. Thus, the striking surface of regular matches gets wet and worn, and the strike anywhere matches get moist and hardly worked to begin with. You will need a regular lighter and a cheap zippo, and you want to have the lighter fluid as well. I bring barbecue lighter fluid, usually on my second trip from the car. But lighter fluid is much smaller and lighter if you are seriously hiking somewhere. Listen, wood in the woods is wet. Sometimes it rains before you get there, so you can only tear off dry branches from a dead tree that dries the fastest. Normally, when you have time to prepare, you want to gather up twice as much wood as you think you will need, and always keep it covered up with a garbage bag so that if it rains at night, it will be still dry. But sometimes, on a bad day, all your stuff will need drying, and lighter fluid will help a lot. But the correct thing to bring along is the fire starter block, as they work even better and burn for longer. The hiker version is the size of a bar of soap, and it is cardboard paper soaked in wax. It is like a big, fat candle that can dry, ignite, and help you start a fire in a pinch. You should only use it when everything is wet, though, not to make your fire starting easier. Save it for when you are in trouble. You can make your own fire starters. It's just a candle. Gather up a bunch of dryer lint and bits of paper, and soak it in as much candle wax as you can find. Be careful, it's flammable. Having a bunch of random stuff is the way you want to go, but don't keep it all in one place. You may not feel your fire starter fanny pack falling off. You will be forced to walk back in search of it, and the hiker that you passed an hour ago may think that it's someone ahead of them that dropped it. Thus, you may never find it. It is overkill, the same way that advice to never sleep beneath a dead tree is overkill. There is no way in heck that your first dead tree will crush you, but eventually, one of those puppies does have to come down. After all, they are called widowmakers, after the jackasses that thought it was overkill. Think of it as survival etiquette. Account for multiple points of failure, more than 3 even, because it is more than 3 that puts you in that really desperate situation that you must always avoid at all costs. Which brings us to the goodies, the somewhat less than serious stuff. These are the keepsakes that you pull out on a good day. This is what you nonchalantly whip out in front of other hikers that just use lighter fluid and matches like the damn dirty city slickers that they are. You want flint and steel. And it is exactly what it's called, an actual flintstone and a piece of steel that kind of looks like brass knuckles. These are often handmade and have a lot of character. Interestingly, you place your thumb over the chunk of flintstone. It is an actual rock about the size of a pine cone. You put the brass knuckle-looking piece of steel in your other hand and dangerously whack the rock until the darn thing sparkles. I kid you not. You will need char cloth. Basically, an old cotton shirt that was put into a tin and then into a fire. It charred, but it did not actually burn. Sparks are sparks. They are very short-lived, so you need a really sensitive fuel that doesn't need a very long time to catch fire. The sparks from the flintstone are enough to start the edge of a char cloth. You will have to blow on it and put it in soft, dry grass. Imagine something like a soft bird's nest. This is why I carry a lighter fluid with me. It's one of the heaviest things in my pack, but I never run out of char cloth or have to find fluffy little bits of grass. I recommend that you throw in the modern version into your pack. It's called a fire steel, or ferro rod and striker. Ferro is short for ferrocerium, and that's the little thing that sparkles when you run a scratchy pocket lighter wheel over it. The fire steel is a big pencil-sized version of that little stone inside a lighter. If you are curious, it's a mix of metals designed to make sparks. There's a bunch of stuff in there, including iron, magnesium, and even neodymium. A fire steel is held in high regard. A lot of people will never go into the woods without it. The high-quality ones will never fail you and always work, even when wet. This is what military would probably use. But again, you cannot rely on one thing. That's the point of this text. You will lose whatever is the one thing that you always use. And it is nowhere as fun as whacking the brass knuckle thingy near your thumb over a sparkly rock. To be clear, the way you light a fire with sparks is by sparking on something that burns very quickly and easily. Sparks are so quick to go out that they hardly burn you, if at all. So you need char cloth or magnesium shavings, and even then, feather-like grass kindling, almost a bird's nest. If you use a match, you only need sticks that are just about as big as a match. Whether you start with feather-like material or match-like sticks, you get your fire to gently move upwards by only ever adding ever so larger versions. And sometimes you may need to blow air on it to encourage the fire to light. You won't be able to start a fire by putting a pencil-sized stick over your kindling. That is just too much for the kindling to light. It won't burn for long enough, much like the spark. From feather-like kindling, you can only move to grass or wood shavings, and then matchstick-like bits of branches, and then slightly bigger and bigger sticks. You have to move up gradually. Unless an emergency, please leave standing trees alone. Even ripping off white birch bark is not cool or impressive. But if you want to get technical and impressive, find a fallen pine that fell a while back. Right at the base in the center, you will find yellow-red fatwood. Well saturated with resin, it will burn easy and hot in any condition.